The Galactic Council station floated like a metal crown above the gas giant Aether, where the light of 3 suns shimmered against its silver hull. Inside, the halls were filled with towering beings, scaled and furred, some walking on 6 limbs, others gliding on wings of light. It was here that Ambassador Reva Morgan of Earth arrived, wearing a simple Navy uniform and carrying nothing but a diplomatic case and a calm smile. Compared to the massive frames and booming voices of the council members, she looked small, and to many, insignificant. But she walked with the quiet confidence of someone who knew she didn't have to prove anything. Humanity, after centuries of internal wars and near collapse, had finally reached the stars. They were late, yes, but not unprepared. Earth had been accepted into the Galactic Concord, but only as observers, not decision makers. The Council of Titans, made up of ancient species like the Krell Dominion, the Zarin Hives, and the Sunsingers of Varlock, saw humans as polite, soft, and overly sentimental. Even as Earth offered technological aid to weaker planets, shared water purifying tech with desert worlds, and opened free translation services across colonies, the elder species scoffed. "They're trying to earn favor through charity," said one Varlock with a glowing mane. Behind closed doors, some even joked that humans were just smart apes trying to play at diplomacy. None were more vocal than General Turek of the Krell, the Minion, a battle-hardened warlord with bone-plated armor and a history of conquering 3-star sectors. Before he was even a council member. "The Terrans are meek," he said coldly, his reptilian eyes gleaming, "because they are afraid." Reva heard the whispers, the laughter behind her back, but never once did she raise her voice or show offense. She simply listened, recorded, and reported back to Earth. And Earth remained polite. But the galaxy began to test that politeness. First, it was a minor skirmish on the edge of Terran space, a trade route blocked by a Krell patrol. Earth filed a formal protest but did not respond militarily. Instead, they rerouted their ships and provided extra escorts, but nothing more. The Council watched closely. Some were amused. Others grew bolder. Earth's peaceful response was seen as weakness, a species too afraid to bite back. Turek smirked at the next council gathering. "Let them speak of peace. They haven't known real war in centuries." Then came the incident that turned whispers into worry. A small Terran colony on Argon 3 went silent. No distress signal. No communication. Just silence. Council investigators claimed a solar storm might have knocked out transmissions, but there were no signs of natural interference. Earth sent a quiet expedition, only 1 ship, and said nothing further. Days passed. No retaliation. No anger. No public accusation. The Council was puzzled. The Krell were amused. Some said Earth had given up already, or didn't care enough about a small colony. Others began to speak more boldly, suggesting Earth wasn't ready to be part of the galactic future. But Reva Morgan remained composed. At the next session, when asked about the colony, she simply said, "Earth is watching. We do not forget." Her words were soft, but something in the room shifted. For a moment, even the loudest members of the council grew quiet, sensing something they couldn't quite explain. Yet still, Turek scoffed. "Let them know their place," he said as he walked out. The rest of the galaxy had decided. Humans were peaceful not because they were strong, but because they had no choice. What they didn't understand, not yet, was that Earth's silence was not surrender. It was a warning. Across the glittering corridors of the Galactic Council station, the air had changed. Though laughter and dismissive comments about Earth still echoed in some corners, there was now an undercurrent of unease that hadn't been there before. Ambassador Reva Morgan still walked the halls in her usual quiet manner, greeting even her harshest critics with a calm nod and gentle words. But something in her eyes had shifted. Not anger, not fear, but a deep, watchful calm that made even the most seasoned diplomats pause. Earth had continued its diplomatic efforts, offering peaceful resolutions and aid to struggling outer colonies, even as new pressure began to build against them. When a second Terran colony, this one on the mining moon of Calyx Prime, suffered a sudden system-wide failure, the pattern became hard to ignore. Its power grid collapsed overnight. Communications were severed, and several key facilities were rendered useless. The Council suggested natural causes again, but Earth's internal report said otherwise. Signs of sabotage were clear. Yet instead of retaliation, Earth sent engineers, medics, and supply ships. No threats, no demands. Just help. The Terran government released a public message to the galaxy. Where there's harm, we bring healing. Where there is darkness, we bring light. Some admired this. Many scoffed. Turek, now more confident than ever, claimed on record, they'll keep sending aid until they have nothing left. Let them break themselves on their own kindness. Behind closed doors, several council members met in secret, not to address the sabotage, but to discuss Earth's growing influence. Their people liked humans. Earth's medical tech was saving lives. Their education programs were opening minds. And their peaceful nature was slowly winning over the younger races. That, more than anything, alarmed the old powers. They whispered of plans to divide Earth's trade routes, to absorb their colonies before they grow teeth. They believed Earth lacked the will to defend itself. But while the Council planned, Earth acted not with fire, but with silence. One by one, Terran embassies across neutral systems quietly went dark. Civilian programs were suspended without warning. Trade fleets changed their paths, skipping over long-standing allies. The friendly human presence that had become familiar across many systems began to vanish. Like morning fog, in the council chambers, Reva remained calm as ever. She listened to accusations, accepted blame for misunderstandings, and spoke only when necessary. But when General Turek confronted her directly, suggesting Earth had grown too bold for its place, she looked at him with that same unshaken calm and replied, "Humanity does not escalate, but we do remember." Those words echoed through the chamber longer than most shouts ever had. Turek sneered, but for the first time, he didn't laugh. Then came the event that truly shifted the mood across the stars. A Krell Dominion warcruiser, heavily armed, equipped with the latest stealth jamming rays, was sent on a routine patrol into human-monitored space. Officially, it was a training exercise. Unofficially, it was meant to provoke. The warcruiser never returned. No distress signal. No recorded impact. No signs of debris or malfunction. Just vanished. The Krell government demanded answers. Earth gave none. They didn't claim responsibility. They didn't send a message. They didn't even acknowledge the ship's disappearance. This silence was louder than any declaration of war. Rumors spread quickly. Some believed Earth had hidden weapons far beyond what they had shown. Others whispered of new eye-controlled fleets, or quantum traps capable of erasing entire ships without a trace. No one had proof. But for the first time, even the proud Krell began to hesitate. Questions replaced arrogance. Worry replaced laughter. Yet through all of this, Reva Morgan kept walking those same halls, her footsteps as calm and steady as ever. She didn't shout. She didn't threaten. But when council guards passed her now, they didn't meet her eyes. The galaxy had mistaken Earth's silence for fear. They had mistaken patience for weakness. But now, something deep and ancient was stirring behind that silence. Not rage, not revenge, but resolve. The kind of quiet fury that didn't burn bright and loud, but cold and certain. And the galaxy, for the first time, began to realize Earth had never been weak. They had simply been polite. In the weeks after the Krull warcruiser vanished inside human space, fear spread like smoke through the Galactic Council. At first, the Krull tried to keep the event quiet, hoping it was a technical failure or a navigational error. But then a small scout vessel sent by the Krull to investigate returned with something far more disturbing than a simple explanation. The ship's data recorder contained fragments of video and sensor readings, brief and fragmented, but clear enough to shake even the hardest of warriors. The footage showed the warcruiser entering a dark sector of space, followed by a burst of unknown energy, nothing like standard plasma or ion weaponry. Then the ship's lights flickered, and the onboard AI began to lock down systems on its own, sealing hatches, freezing control panels, and muting all outgoing signals. No enemy ships were visible, no explosions heard, just a creeping silence, and a final moment where all power simply died. The scout crew brought this data back in secret, and the Krull leadership classified it immediately. But secrets don't stay hidden for long in the stars. The footage was leaked. No one knows how, and soon the entire council was watching those terrifying moments, frame by frame. Species who had once mocked Earth now whispered in their own languages, asking the same quiet question: who are the humans really? The fear grew not because of what was seen, but what wasn't. There were no armies, no battleships, no dramatic fight. Whatever happened to the warcruiser was done in silence, without a trace, and with a level of precision that suggested planning, patience, and power beyond what anyone had imagined. That fear turned to doubt, and that doubt turned to meetings behind locked doors. The council called for Earth to explain itself. The chamber was filled to capacity when Reva Morgan walked in, her expression calm, her hands folded behind her. Back, no bodyguards, no weapons, just presence. The room fell quiet as she took the central platform, her voice gentle but clear. You speak of us as if we are new, but Earth is not a child among you. We have walked through fire. We were not born in peace. We chose it. Her words carried no anger, yet they struck harder than any weapon. She spoke not of threats, but of history. How Earth had endured centuries of war, extinction threats, and collapse, only to rise stronger each time. She reminded them that humans had once lived in chaos, but built unity from conflict. Peace is not something we inherited, she said. It is something we earned by choosing restraint when we had every reason not to. The chamber remained silent long after she left. Then came the moment that changed everything. For years, the galaxy had assumed Earth had no military strength. They had seen no battleships, no military parades, no force projections. But now, for reasons known only to Terran High Command, Earth lifted the veil. Across neutral space, signals began to appear, encrypted, clean, unmistakably human. Terran fleet signatures, once thought to be science vessels, revealed themselves to be stealth-class warcraft. Massive ships emerged from deep space, not with noise, but with calm coordination. They were unlike anything the Council had seen, vessels with no visible thrusters, no energy leaks, moving in ways that defied current physics. Their weapons systems were hidden beneath armor that adapted to scans. Their AI fleets moved with synchronized silence. They didn't fire. They didn't threaten. They simply appeared in systems once considered vulnerable, in trade zones once deemed unguarded, even near the homeworlds of Council members who had mocked Earth's diplomacy. And then, slowly, information began to surface. Earth had not been building fleets in orbit. They had built them underground, underwater, hidden inside moons and under cities. Their cyber warfare division had been mapping Council infrastructure, For years, not to attack, but to understand every weakness. Their quantum tech, thought to be theoretical, was already operational. All this time, humanity had simply chosen not to show its strength. But now, the mask was slipping, not to scare, but to remind. Fear turned to panic in many corners of the galaxy. Some believed Earth was planning a war. Others begged for alliances, hoping to avoid whatever retribution might come. But Reva said nothing more. Earth didn't release statements or broadcasts. Only one final message was transmitted to the Galactic Council, a simple, clear signal from Earth's high command carried across all frequencies, reaching every known world in the Concord. It read, "This is not retaliation. This is a reminder. The next strike will not be clean." And then, silence. No ships moved. No declarations were made. But the message was enough. The galaxy had assumed Earth was weak because it had chosen peace. They had thought silence meant fear. They had forgotten what humans had survived to reach the stars. And now, with that single message, they began to remember not just Earth's kindness, but its capacity for something far more powerful, restraint backed by strength. Across the galaxy, the stars remained the same, but everything beneath them had changed. Systems once held in the firm grip of the most aggressive council factions awoke to confusion, silence, and something far more unsettling, the absence of power. Orbital stations blinked out one by one, weapons platforms became non-functional, and deep space sensors stopped responding altogether. On a dozen planets, military commanders rushed to restore systems, only to find control panels frozen and is looping harmless diagnostics. Communications were jammed without warning, not by noise or interference, but by perfect signal mirrors. Every message they sent was bounced back to them, unreadable and unanswered. Within hours, entire fleets were grounded. Captains who had once mocked Earth's name found themselves locked inside their own ships, their commands overridden by soft, unseen code. Admirals woke up in holding cells aboard human vessels, treated with respect but given no weapons, no communication, and no exit. There were no battles, not a single shot fired. The Terran fleet had not come to destroy. They had come to disable, to demonstrate. Their ships, quiet and cold like the void itself, left behind detailed repair manuals, systems diagnostics, and polite instructions on how to restart defense grids. Once Earth had left, the message was written on every screen in every language, used by the Council. We don't want to rule. We want to be left alone. It wasn't a demand. It was a line in the stars, a boundary drawn not in fire, but in precision. The Council's response was chaos. The elder species, those who had built empires on power and intimidation, couldn't understand what had just happened. They had prepared for wars of lasers and fleets, for fire and fury, not this cold, exact, surgical disabling of their entire war infrastructure. Species who had no part in the earlier bullying of Earth began to speak up, publicly supporting humanity's right to self-defense. Protests erupted on Varlock and Krell colonies, where younger citizens demanded their governments explain how they had provoked a power that could dismantle them without even leaving a scar. Peaceful races, the ones long ignored in council debates, now rallied around Earth, declaring their support for a new way of power, strength through control, peace through discipline. The old council tried to recover its authority, but it was too late. The galaxy had seen the truth. Earth was not weak, not reckless, and certainly not afraid. They had risen through chaos, evolved through hardship, and now, when pushed too far, had shown the entire galaxy what true restraint looked like when backed by absolute capability. In the center of this storm stood Reva Morgan once more, calm, As always, stepping into the council chamber where eyes now followed her with caution, not laughter. She did not raise her voice, but every word she spoke echoed like thunder. "We extended a hand," she said, her voice even, "and you tried to bite it. Now we remind you why we wore gloves." Her words left no space for misinterpretation. Earth had offered peace, respect, and cooperation, but those offers had been twisted into excuses to exploit. So Earth, in its own way, had simply shown what it had always hidden. The Terran fleet didn't occupy territory. They disabled it, taught it, and moved on. No flags were planted. No thrones were claimed. Because Earth had never wanted to rule. They had only wanted space to grow in peace. The chamber remained silent long after she walked out. The galaxy, for once, had nothing to say. But General Turek, leader of the Krell Dominion and Earth's loudest critic, was not ready to accept defeat. Humiliated, furious, and desperate to reclaim the illusion of control, he gathered what remained of his forces and launched a direct assault on what intelligence reports claimed was a Terran core system. His fleet, though wounded, was still powerful by any standard. Hundreds of ships, elite troopers, and command carriers, they came in fast, guns primed, expecting a surprise counterattack or at least a last defense line. But what they found instead was a system that looked abandoned. No resistance. No fleet. No sign of Terran presence. The planets were dark, the satellites quiet, and the stations empty. For a moment, Turek believed he had caught Earth off guard, until a signal appeared across every screen on every ship in his fleet. A simple sentence, displayed in clear text with no voice. "You are not where you think you are." In that instant, everything clicked too late. The system had been a decoy, a projection, a stage. The real Terran fleet, the true strike force, was not there. They were elsewhere. As Turek tried to retreat, alarms sounded not from his own ships, but from the Krell homeworld. Orbital defenses offline. Planetary shields neutralized. Communications frozen. And above the skies of Krell Prime, casting long shadows over the oceans and cities, hovered the actual Terran fleet, silent, ready, and completely in control. The galaxy watched as the proudest warrior in Council history realized he had been outmaneuvered not by brute force, but by intellect, patience, and precision. Earth had not just woken up. It had shown that it had never been asleep, only watching. The skies above Krell Prime shimmered with the quiet presence of the Terran fleet, their ships holding position without firing a single shot. On the surface below, General Turek, once the loudest voice against Earth, stood in silence as his own. People looked skyward with fear and confusion. He had expected fire, destruction, and the collapse of his homeworld, but none came. Instead, Earth's strategy unfolded in a way that no Council species could have predicted. As his personal guards scrambled to regroup and raise defenses, their weapons simply powered down. Interfaces going dark without a warning. The command center, once filled with blaring alarms, went still. Then came the quiet approach, not from soldiers in armor, not from drones or machines, but from a group of Terran civilians. Scientists, engineers, and diplomats, unarmed, calm, and precise. They walked through deactivated defenses as if strolling through a marketplace. One of them, a young human technician, simply raised a hand toward Turek's weapon and whispered a short neural command. The weapon fell from the general's hand, disconnected not just from its power source, but from the very neural link that allowed him to control it. He was captured not with violence, but with knowledge, and in that moment, the once feared general finally understood the true nature of Earth's power. Not brutality, not conquest, but control, clean, quiet, and absolute. Across the stars, the message was the same. Earth had won without war. Planet by planet, council factions that had once pushed Earth to its limits were shown the same lesson, not through fear, but through balance. Instead of claiming territory, Earth sent messages of peace. Instead of punishment, they offered repair. No worlds were annexed. No flags were planted. The Terran fleet would disable a hostile base, ensure its systems were restored safely, and then leave behind manuals, medical supplies, and soft-spoken suggestions for cooperation. And when the council finally gathered again, this time with many of its seats empty or quiet, Reva Morgan returned, standing not as a diplomat from a quiet world, but as the most respected voice in the galaxy. There were no cheers, no loud announcements, but every eye turned to her when she spoke. Her voice, as always, was calm. We did not come here to rule. We came here to grow. But when we were challenged, we responded not with rage, but with reason. Not with weapons, but with wisdom. She proposed something new. The old council system had failed, poisoned by power and arrogance. In its place, Earth suggested a transparent council, open to all species equally, with fair voting, open knowledge sharing, and strict limits on military aggression. It was not a demand. It was an invitation. And one by one, species across the galaxy accepted. Some hesitated, unsure if Earth truly meant what it said. But as more and more saw Terran ships delivering food instead of bombs, offering alliances, instead of ultimatums, they realized the truth. Earth's strength had never been in its weapons, but in the choice not to use them. Change moved swiftly. Formerly silenced voices, scholars, builders, and peaceful races once ignored in council meetings were now heard. A new alliance was born, built not on fear of Earth, but on shared belief in Earth's idea. Peace is powerful when it is chosen, not forced. And as the new council formed, a monument was built at its center, on neutral ground. It was simple. A black stone column carved with a single phrase in over 100 languages. One that echoed in every meeting, every decision, and every memory of the last conflict. We were just being polite. The words, spoken first as a quiet warning, now stood as a universal reminder that kindness, when mistaken for weakness, could awaken something unstoppable. Earth did not celebrate victory. They simply returned to their work, helping where needed, exploring new stars, and watching quietly. But the galaxy never forgot. And deep within every admiral's strategy room, every diplomat's handbook, and every academy across the stars, the lesson was written in bold. Never mistake silence for surrender. Never mistake peace for helplessness. And never, under any circumstance, forget what humanity truly is beneath the smile. Because when they act, they do not roar, they whisper, and the galaxy listens.